Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to talk about hiking boots. I figured there's no point in doing a boot review based on one trip. So we're going to look at boots that, well, these boots have got close to 1,000 kilometers on them. The Scarpa Sl Active, this guy right here, phenomenal boot. They're, in around the $400 Canadian price range, so they're not cheap. But I'll almost guarantee you that this boot will outlast a $200 boot by more than twice. Like I say, when we have a look at this boot, it's probably well over 1,000 kilometers now. I do a lot of hiking up in the mountains, a lot of off-trail hiking. So, the boots are not just for fit and comfort, but definitely protection and make sure I make it back to the truck safely and comfortably. The full leather construction, I'm a big fan of that. Sometimes you'll see a lot of people pick a fabric and leather combination where they have a fabric upper. I find that when you get into a full leather boot like this, it not only gives you the protection from the weather, any sort of abrasion and rocks and everything else. You'll find that the fabric boots also tend to have a lot more stitching around the outside. You'll see throughout the body of the boot, you'll see a lot more stitching. So a lot more stuff to go wrong, a lot more than can get hung up on sticks and branches, and typically just doesn't last nearly as long. These boots have got what they call Scarpa's HS12 leather. It's anywhere from 2.7 to 2.9 millimeters thick. These boots are designed for long backpacking trips, a little bit of off-trail. They're not quite a mountaineering class boot, but definitely for what you're going to do for most of your wildlife photography are going to be an excellent choice. I typically pack 25 to 30 pounds of gear, so a good supportive boot is imperative to prevent you from rolling your ankle. They also have a wicking lining. I don't know if you can see inside of here. So this boot's kind of an interesting combination where the back of the boot is a leather wrap around your ankle with a wicking lining in the forefoot of the boot. Let's see if you can see that in there. See the gray and the tongue. So that's a wicking lining. So if you combine that with a good wool sock, it'll help to draw the moisture up and away from your foot and really helps to keep your feet comfortable throughout the day. Obviously, socks are an important part of your footwear, and merino wool is definitely top of the pile when it comes to sock choices. There's no question. It can really make a difference for helping to cut down on blisters. By helping to move that moisture away from your feet, it can really make it a lot more comfortable on your feet. So when it comes to weatherproofness, basically you're going to have your fabric and leather boot, your typical day hiking boot. They're going to be good for warm weather hiking, but if you get any sort of moisture, they really aren't going to keep the moisture out. So those boots will often have a Gore-Tex or something type of liner in them to help with the weatherproofing. It works great, again, light hiker, light use. Once you get into the 5-year range, we're talking 1,000 kilometers on these guys. Generally, in a light boot, you'll find that the liner and the Gore-Tex liner isn't as effective. Just over time, the wear and abrasion of your toes in the top of the toe cap, like you'll see up in here, a lot of times your toe, if it's abrading at the top, will actually wear through the Gore-Tex lining. You'll end up with a spot where moisture can get through here. Also inside of the heel, just with the abrasion on there, you'll find that sometimes you just end up getting a spot where the lining no longer keeps your feet dry. So with these boots, Scarpa doesn't call them waterproof because they don't have a Gore-Tex liner. They rely on the leather construction for their waterproofing. So again, if you look, you notice that the bellows of the tongue is a heavy-duty bellows where it actually it folds over and with very few stitches and seams in the lower boot. So with a full leather boot, it's my choice because I find the Gore-Tex liners can get a little bit warm, especially when combined with a full leather boot. So in summertime, your feet will get a little bit warmer. Gore-Tex lining is definitely, if you're doing a lot of stuff in the snow, a Gore-Tex boot does make sense. Especially if you're doing any sort of overnight, it will help keep the inner boot drier. There's no question about that. Just snow can be difficult to keep out, especially on our West Coast weather, West Coast snow here. The amount of moisture in our snow can really be difficult to kind of keep the feet dry. So that's where the Gore-Tex liner will help. With these, if you treat the leather well, you know, I was just out recording the video for this boot, and I was standing in a creek, and you don't get wet. You shouldn't get wet. You know, it's like I say, Scarpa does not call these boots waterproof, but they're very, very, very weatherproof. And so I'm going to go with that. You know, like I said, these boots are 5 years old. I treat these with the Nikwax wax. Scarpa has a wax that they recommend. That's excellent as well. But yeah, a well-treated full leather boot will give you, you know, I don't want to say waterproof, but excellent, excellent, you know, weather protection and all-day comfort on an excursion. So these have got memory foam in around the ankle here, so that helps to give you a nice snug ankle fit around your ankle, so that when you're walking, you're not slipping, sliding out of the boot. Excellent comfort. I actually found with these boots, they had a very, very quick break-in time for how stiff they are. I highly recommend, you know, a good break-in period if you are out shooting for any length of time, or if you're going to be going on a longer extended trip. Definitely recommend a good break-in period. For me, they're pretty much comfortable out of the box, which is, you know, a sign of a good quality boot for sure, and a good fit. These boots have got a polyurethane midsole, so this is the midsole in here. If you look at like an inexpensive boot, say in the $200 range, it'll be what they call EVA, or ethyl vinyl acetate, and it's similar what you'll find in a running shoe. Fits great, really comfortable for the first couple 100 kilometers, but it will quickly compress over time, and you're just not going to get the long-term durability. You're definitely not going to see, you know, multiple thousands of kilometers out of a boot like that. The support will break down too quick over time. This boot also has a polyurethane shank as opposed to a steel shank. So the shank is actually internal of the boot. A lot of times the steel shank will be in this section of the boot, so it'll actually run inside of here. Steel, excellent for durability, excellent for support. You'll sometimes find it can be a little bit cold if you are out in a winter condition. The cold from the steel will transfer into the boot itself, and it's going to be heavier as well. So the polyurethane shank in these is definitely up to task. And what the shank does, it's about torsional rigidity. So if you grab the heel and toe of a boot, it's how much can you twist it. And you can see for this boot, where this boot is, like I say, this is well over 1,000 kilometers on it, and it's very, very, very stiff still. Gives you an amazing amount of support. The other thing with this boot, if you notice the rocker sole here, so for how stiff it is, it makes for a nice transition as you're walking. So you're not kind of walking, you know, if you wear a mountaineering boot that's quite flat-footed, especially one that's for any sort of vertical climbing, it tends to be very stiff, and it doesn't roll very nicely. So from a hiking, backpacking standpoint, it's just not as comfortable on your feet and on your body for, you know, hiking that 10, 12K a day sort of thing. If you're going up vertical, the stiffness of the boot kind of allows for toe holds, allows you to kind of step and toe and move up. It's a different sort of, a different design for a different sort of function. The other one, so this is, again, Vibram sole. You can see how well this is worn. So, like I say, this boot has over 1,000 kilometers on it, which is, you know, a good amount of use by any stretch. And you can see that the tread is still wearing very well. It doesn't get hiked on the road. I don't wear these around town. I don't wear them walking around town. So this is pretty much a trail boot. So that's kind of a good thing to take note when you do buy a good pair of boots. The more you can stick to the trail as opposed to the road, they're going to last a lot longer for you. Another feature I look for in any boot, sorry if you can take a look at this, is this heel lug here. So see the way the heel has got quite an aggressive lug on there? Where that really helps is when you're going downhill, it can really help prevent a runaway slide where your boot just can really kind of start to skid down the slope. And that's kind of a feature that, so even as the treads start to wear down a little bit, having that heel wedge on there is a very, very good feature to look for. And it's something I look for in all of my hiking boots. When you don't have it, you miss it quite quickly. And again, nice aggressive outsole. I do like the tread pattern on this sole. You'll see some where the treads are too horizontal, where they don't have any good side sloping grab, where this tread's got kind of bidirectional tread to it. Will help from sliding downhill when you're going uphill. It's got a good climbing. On rocks, it's got a good toe grip for climbing up any sort of scrambling on any sort of rock terrain. Just huge fan of this tread. Just excellent outsole for sure. Now these boots aren't light. They're about 3.5 pounds for a men's size 10. So not a light boot. Sometimes it's having a boot that's a little bit lighter is good for just going out for the day when you're just with your camera. But anytime you're putting a pack on, you're carrying your tripod, for me, extra video gear, extra gear in general, it's just a good idea to have that extra weight. It really does provide you extra protection. The rubber rand, another excellent feature to look for. So that helps to give some protection on the toe. You can see how this is a bit scuffed up right now. I try and take good care of my boots, but I don't take excellent care of my boots. They do get used a lot. But the toe rand really helps to prevent scuffing and tearing, and also, just helps the whole boot last a lot longer. This is kind of an area of the boot that will take a lot of abuse. Every time you're stepping into against any rocks, any branches, things like that, and that just really helps to protect the leather. Well, that's it. Scarpa Sl Active. Like I say, over 1,000 kilometers, going on 5 years of use. Can't recommend them enough. Fantastic boot. Take care. Till next time.